promises, threats. Let us know what you're thinking. Put them in that questionnaire box. We do encourage that interaction.
Whether it's day 1, 2, or today, any question you have, please throw in there, because day 1 was your online presence. We talked about your website along with Google. We also on day 2 talked about social media, mostly Facebook. Of course, Facebook and Instagram own each other, or Facebook owns Instagram. So there's some cross-platform there, but Facebook should still be your #1 focus. And today we're going to talk about all the other things that have to do with digital agencies.
The first 2 days are very much your branding and very much your marketing. Today we're going to talk about what can you be doing to streamline a lot of your processes and a lot of frustrations. And the biggest one is actually something that we're getting a lot more attention on. It's our industry, the working with senior industry has caught up. That's working with e-applications.
Yeah, because I don't remember the last time I filled out a paper application for anything, whether it be, commonly you have credit card offers, you have insurance applications, you have, what else would you fill a paper app for? The only time I really fill out anything paper is at a doctor's office, and that's basically it.
And that's the fact finding. You're not, setting an appointment that way. You're not doing anything else. It's all the fact finding is on paper.
Yeah, because rather than hand everyone the waiting room tablets, it's much cheaper to hand people pieces of paper for them to fill out, and then they have to take it and input it themselves. But other than that, I know when I bought my auto insurance, it wasn't a paper app. I know last credit card I got wasn't a paper app. It was a quick form online and you're done. So when you pull out a paper app, you're pulling out a very antiquated way of doing business.
Well, what does a paper app tell you? If somebody pulls out a paper application, what does that tell you about their systems and processes?
You're old school.
They're outdated.
Yes.
They're inconvenient. They're relying on outdated methods of communication. Keep in mind, right now, the #1 thing that we have complaints with when it comes to paper apps is when it comes to the consumer side of things is how it is very inconvenient to do paper applications. And it doesn't matter if you're face-to-face or if you're doing a non-face-to-face appointment, which blew up in 2020 due to COVID-19. So, but keep in mind, we as agents are in competition with what we call convenience-based enrollment. Convenient-based enrollment are done by people who don't necessarily see the value behind an advisor when it comes to making insurance decisions. People who call the 1-800 on the Joe Namath ad, people who are looking to self-enroll, people who are doing more internet searches are focused on convenience-based enrollment. The baby boomers are actually the #1 demographic who valued convenience over any other demographic, and that's who we're wanting to go for, those healthy, wealthy, turning 65-year-olds. If you are not using an electronic application, you are really missing the boat with these brand new baby boomers.
Yeah, Brian makes a great point that they get processed a lot slower too, because someone actually has to.
They get processed paper applications.
Yes.
Paper applications are processed much, much more slowly.
Yeah, because when they come through a fax machine, someone has to key it in, and or is your handwriting legible? Now, the only caveat to this is I still recommend keeping paper apps, depending on the carrier, in your trunk, because if you're out at someone's house in an application and they live out way in the boondocks and you don't have a signal and you have a carrier that doesn't allow offline-based enrollments, that's the only time I would recommend using a paper application, and make sure you complete every line and you make it very legible to streamline that process. Other than that, it should never come out of your trunk.
Well, here's the issue that we have is that, and whenever we're talking to agents about you really need to be utilizing e-applications, the #1 thing, and it comes down to it's difficult the first time. The first time you do an e-application, you're fumbling through it. I understand that. But again, we have walkthroughs on every single e-application. There are videos on how to do certain e-applications. The biggest legitimate, or not legitimate, the biggest concern that agents have are, well, my agents don't, or my clients don't do this. My clients don't have email addresses. My clients don't have internet. My clients don't utilize technology. My #1 thing that you have to keep in mind, you need to accommodate the book of business that you want, not necessarily the book of business that you have. There will always be outliers. There will always be people who don't use an email address, who don't have internet. But why use your systems and your regulations to accommodate a dying book of business, and the outliers? It's not about how you want to sell. It has everything to do with how your client wants to buy.
You know what? We should make a record label and just only sell records, not no MP3s, no CDs, not even cassette tapes. We should we should do 8 tracks.
8 tracks.
Retro, yes. You know what? And you may be a little successful having that very microcosm of people, that very niche market of 8-track people, but you're not gonna be very successful because that's such a niche market, and there is no really niche market for paper applications or dying books of business in this field.
Oh yeah, and again, like, you will absolutely have people say, I don't do that. Maybe they don't trust putting their banking information online. Maybe they don't trust.
It already is.
But I'm just saying, like, I will not fight with you. You will come across every now and again, but somebody who is not going to do that, and that's like Mike mentioned. Always have paper apps on hand. But keep in mind, paper applications, well, let's just look here. Paper applications stop the majority of issues and the majority of reason that applications pinned with the carrier. United Healthcare, who is the #1 med sub written in the United States, 1/3 of med sub policyholders have a United Healthcare policy. They mentioned the #1 reason of a pinned application was due to an agent missing signature. So e-applications will stop inaccurate applications. They will stop issues with applications getting lost in the mail, lost in the fax machine, things like that. They will process much more quickly. In fact, a lot of e-applications are now having situations where they'll do instant issue. You don't have to wait for underwriting as long as the information is correct on the e-application. It's instant issue to get a policy within, or a policy number within 15 minutes.
And this isn't new. When I started with Humana back in 2005, as that was my first step into the senior market, we were doing electronic applications then. We had laptops and signature pads, and we would fill out the application on the laptop, have the client sign it, give them a little receipt, a little handwritten receipt, and that was it. So for 16 years, Humana's been doing electronic applications. So if you're like, oh, this is all new, no, it's antiquated. Now you have apps that you can upload onto your tablets, whether it be an iPad or Android, and complete the process very quick and efficiently, and your clients will appreciate that.
If you're not using e-applications, or you're just like rolling your eyes hard at me right now talking about why they're so important and why you need to switch to that, let me know why. I'd be very interested. I don't want to fight with you. Internet fights don't work, but I'd be really curious as to why you are anti e-application, because I cannot for the life of me find a legitimate reason, and feel free to try to prove me wrong about why e-applications don't work. But just keep that in mind.
The #1 objections I've seen come from agents is, I want a copy of my application.
Which you can get those with the apps.
Yep. Okay. So that's gone. What if my internet goes down?
Again, most e-applications now have the capability to be done offline, but not all of them. That is a legitimate thing. Like, if you don't have the internet, like Mike mentioned, always keep some paper apps on hand.
Okay. My clients are scared of it. And I'm
you will have that once in a while, but never assume that. I think a lot of people make assumptions for their clients that my clients don't do that. You're wrong more than you're not. Unless your client specifically says, I don't want to enter in my information online, then I guarantee you that's not an actual fear.
Yeah, and again, Humana's been doing it, because when I was trained, I got a laptop with a signature pad. So 16 years ago, before any senior was on Facebook, I've never had an objection, to an electronic app. They just assume that's the way you do business. Like, okay, you're going to do it on the computer, great, cool. No one ever said, no, it must be on paper if I'm going to enroll in this Medicare Advantage plan, mister. Said nobody. The only time we did, and if we turned in a paper app, it was a big deal. They were like, why are you turning in a paper app? What is this? And the only time it was allowed if we had to mail the app to somebody that was, too far to drive.
Which isn't even an excuse anymore.
Yes.
That was 15 years ago.
Exactly.
Let me ask your opinion on this, Mike, because nobody's asking this, but we do get this question a lot. Maybe just nobody's paying attention. So here we go. Tablet or laptop? Now, this is under the assumption, or maybe not. I mean, if you're working in your office, the setup that I recommend with e-applications in your office is to have 2 screens. One that you're facing, that you're working off of, and one that faces the client, because you want to be careful when it comes to using technology in an appointment setting to avoid the technological barrier. If you have a physical screen between you and the client, there's some anonymity they don't know necessarily anonymity. They don't know necessarily what you're looking at. So I do like that they can see exactly what you have pulled up on the screen. So I do like that if you have the ability to with a desktop computer. Outside of that though, Mike, are you a laptop fan or a
tablet
fan?
I'm tablet because if you're using a laptop, you still have to go to their websites because most of them don't, like if you, especially on a Windows machine, if it's not a Mac, obviously, you have to go to the browser to do that, which means you are required to have internet. With a tablet, a lot of carriers have dedicated applications, not applications as in what the client fills out, but apps for your tablet that tie to the carrier that you could use offline. That's what I would use in the field 100% would be a tablet.
Yeah. If it were me, I think what I would do is I would actually have both. I would have a laptop that I work off of and a tablet that I would let my clients work off of. You know, like to sign things on there, to do an e-app up. But I think I would do both still. I don't think that there is a right answer. I think it's whatever you are more comfortable with.
Yeah.
Now, we also get a lot of questions when it comes to tablets in particular of Apple versus Android products.
Apple.
I think again it comes right back down to preference. I am bought into, I have an Apple Watch, I have an iPhone, I have an iPad, so I'm pretty deep into the Apple universe. Apple products, whenever people come out with new apps, it used to be when people came out with new apps, they would come out on Apple prior to Android. So that was always a huge selling point for Apple products. Now they are kind of being released. Typically, Apple and Android apps are released at the same time. So honestly, I think it's whatever you're more comfortable with. I personally am an Apple product fan, but that's not because I think it works better. It's because everything I own is already Apple.
I have slowly made the conversion to Apple, but I have hit a stopping point. My laptop's Apple, my tablet's an iPad, Apple Watch, iPhone, but my home is still a PC, just for the stuff I do there. What screen size do you recommend? You know what?
I wouldn't go smaller than this.
Yeah.
Don't use the mini.
Yeah.
This is a 10.5, and the reason for that is because this is still super easy to work off of. I can use an Apple Pencil with it, but the idea here is that I'm working with clients. This feels like it has the size of an 11 by 8.5 sheet of paper. It's smaller than that, but it still kind of has that feel.
Yeah.
Still has that familiarity to it, that good grip feel. So I would not recommend going smaller than a 10.5 inch screen because we're working with clientele who do have vision concerns and vision issues.
Now,
plus it's just easier to hold.
Now, if you're on a budget, which we all are, we don't have billions of dollars sitting around the bank. You don't need a Pro. You can get an iPad. I think the 6 will use the Apple Pencil without being a Pro. And there are a lot of knockoff pencils on Amazon. I used a knockoff Apple Pencil after my daughter lost my real Apple Pencil. I didn't want to spend another $120 on a pencil, so I bought a $30 one to try it. And I tell you what, you can't tell the difference.
Yeah, I'm sure.
And it was $30. So you can get like a basic iPad for I think they're down a couple $100. $30 for a pencil that you can hand to your client and they could sign, and you are in business. That's far cheaper than a laptop too.
Oh yeah, much cheaper than a laptop. You can buy keyboard extensions for your iPad. So if you're wanting to pitch a penny and you don't want to buy a iPad, or not an iPad, excuse me, a laptop, your tablet could be fine.
Yeah.
Tom asked, he was told that iOS is actually more of a secure of a platform and an operating system than Android, and that is actually correct.
That's what I hear.
However, we're both, so I'll just say it like this. When we have to go through compliance, all of our stuff has to go through compliance, our computers, our phones. Since I have my email on my phone, I have to have encryption software, things like that. So any type of tablet or any type of electronic device that houses or has the capability of housing client information. So if you have a cloud-based CRM, we'll get into that in a little bit, but if it's accessible through this has to have at minimum two-way authentication. So just keeping that in mind, that's for both iOS and Android products. iOS has done a great job of defending against viruses, but it still requires encryption software.
Yeah.
All Windows devices will require encryption software. So just keep that in mind. Yes, it is more secure. However, if you are working off of an Apple or Android process, you still are required to have encryption software on it, as well as two-way authentication. So that really, if you're doing it correctly, security on both types of devices shouldn't be a concern.
Now, if you're of the camp of Apple's evil and I refuse to use them, I would look at Samsung tablets. So probably because the challenge with Android-based software is that there's 90,000 different manufacturers, 90,000 specs. But of all the Android devices I've seen, Samsung typically comes to the top of the food chain when it comes to tablets, or as opposed to Apple, which is more consistent in their line because they're the only ones that manufacture it. You've got all kinds of chaos on the other end. So check out Samsung, but again, all depends on your budget, what you feel comfortable using. I love the fact that when you have Apple products, they talk to each other seamlessly. So again, it all depends on what you're looking for. You can always give us a call and say, hey, here's what I'm using right now. Should I make the switch? And we'll talk you through the pros and cons. I will say one thing I did is I got my iPad through my cell phone carrier. So I have data on my tablet, so I don't have to worry about clients, sketchy Wi-Fi, or tethering to my phone. It's all built in there.
And security purposes, it's actually better if you do that, to use some sort of hotspot either from your phone or have cellular data on your iPad, because it's a security risk if you are attaching to or linking up to public Wi-Fi. So if you go to a Starbucks and use a public Wi-Fi there to do an application, that is actually not compliant, because anybody can access HIPAA sensitive information through your technology. So it is highly recommended and compliant that you have your own hotspot, never connect to a public Wi-Fi using technology that is connected to HIPAA sensitive information.
And it doesn't take a whole lot to run an application. So most data plans or cell phone plans come with some sort of hotspot. I know I have like 5 gigs a month, and I don't think I've ever crossed 1. So you should have plenty to do applications. But again, you can either go to your cell phone carrier and say, hey, how much would it be to have a connected tablet, or just hotspot off your phone. So again, it depends what you have, depends what you're comfortable using.
The last thing I'm going to say about e-applications is that this has become so important after COVID-19 and after the coronavirus, because there has been a huge boost in people completing applications not face-to-face. So going into this AEP, a lot of people got used to, and they love the option to be able to see their agents, their advisors virtually. So Senior Marketing Specialist has something called Medicare Center. Medicare Center combines Connecture and a program called Sunfire, if you're familiar with those two programs. But what it is, it allows you to do e-applications for any Medicare Advantage carrier that you have a contract with at least one integrity partner with. So even if you don't have that United Healthcare contract or Aetna contract through Senior Marketing Specialist, if you have it through a different integrity partner, then all of those are in the same place. It allows you to do applications both face-to-face and completely virtually from each other. So if you're not face-to-face with the client, all you have to do, you can either email them or text them the signature pages of the application for them to complete themselves. It's a really cool program. Stores drug lists, allows you to compare pricing on Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans all in one place. You could even shop Medicare Advantage plans based on the person's provider, which is something that's extremely unique. So just keep that in mind if you are interested in how to do Medicare Advantage and PDP applications online. Use Medicare Center. If you want to make sure on how do I compliantly present and sell Medicare Advantage and PDP over the phone, give us a call, or go to smsteam.net, click on training, and you can click on the phone sales there and learn more about that. Like Brian mentioned, it's so easy. It is the easiest e-app, extremely intuitive. Do it.
Yes. Now, next subject, we want to talk about communicating with the clients, and that, of course, with email. So with email, you should be using it with your clients. I guarantee most of your clients and prospects have an email address. If they use Amazon, which, let's face it, just about everyone does.
Especially after COVID-19. Everybody did online stuff after COVID-19. So yes.
Or they have a Facebook account, they have an email address. Now, are they that active using email? Remember, we talked yesterday, and this applies to both my in-laws and my parents, is that my mother-in-law and my mother are both on Facebook and are active in their email. My father-in-law's and my father-in-laws, but my father-in-law and my father are not on Facebook, but they do everything through email. They're all on email. They're all on Medicare. And they all use it on a daily, just about a daily basis. So if you think only 45%, which is still a huge number, are on Facebook, well, everyone else is probably on email sending stupid jokes like my father does to me.
Absolutely. You need to make sure that you are utilizing your client's email. Now, I fully understand why people do not want to put their email address on the carrier applications. And honestly, I'd be the same way. What am I seeing? I don't know that this is a bug. I don't know that I would put my client's email on an application if I didn't have to, because I don't want the carriers to market to my clients. That's why they're asking for it. However, I want to make sure that I have my client's email address and set the expectation that I will be doing some communications with them via email, including my newsletter that I'll send out 4 times a year. Sending that via email is incredible. So just keeping that in mind is one reason I would utilize, but you really do need to make sure that you are getting your client's email and set the expectation that you will be communicating with them with email throughout the year. Email will help you replace things like annual review letters, sending out your newsletter. It'll help you replace sending out, like, here are the top 10 things you need to know about this coming AEP, things like that. It's also been now allowed that email is now allowable, or is an allowable marketing campaign for prospecting Medicare Advantage and prescription drug plans. So you can't cold call, you can't door knock, but you can email. So if you're not familiar with how to use and you don't have clients and prospect email, start getting it.
Yeah, so let's look at some email facts real quick. 69% of email recipients use a subject line to determine spam. So we always recommend, and we're going to talk about newsletters here in a minute, but if you are sending out emails, try not to be, if you can be clever or clear, always be clear. So when I see email come through and I'm not 100% who the sender is, the next thing you look at is what's the subject line. And if you got some questionable subject line, I'm going to hit delete.
I love that, how you say, I know we talk about that here in a little bit, but you always say never put, if you are sending out a newsletter, never put newsletter in the subject, because people just automatically delete it because they don't think it's quote unquote important.
There's one newsletter I get that puts newsletter in the subject line, but it's a photography one, and it's very, very popular photography site. So it's like our newsletter, but it'd be like Chevrolet sending you a newsletter. So newsletter from Chevrolet. Okay, well, I know who Chevrolet is, or Subaru, or whoever your automotive manufacturer is. That's more legit. Your brand doesn't carry that much weight, unfortunately. So emojis can help open rate by 56%. Don't be over the top with those. Video email. We talked about social media, how video is king, and you should be using video. It can increase your click-through rate by 300%. So if you're sending, and there are actually services that if you want to send a client a video rather than type out a message, you can and send them the video in the email. What's one that does that? Bonbon or BombBomb is one. There's a couple others. If you just Google, I don't know them offhand, but I know if you go to video email, there's services that you could just do a quick screen and quick record.
iJot does one. Windows, there are some Windows services that'll do it as well. Loom
does like screen record.
Magic Hippo will do it.
Magic Hippo. I want to go to that site just to see what it's all about. But yeah, so if you're like, I can't do video, don't have equipment, you literally just, all you need is a webcam and a computer, which you obviously have, and you could start doing videos to your clients. You don't have to be anything fancy. You just say, hey, just want to give you a quick update, blah, 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 thanks. And you could send an email out or video out to numerous people, but people will watch video more than they read text. The average click-through rate on newsletters is only about 14%.
A newsletter or all emails?
Open rate for emails, I'm sorry. The click open rate is 14%, and 49% of emails open on mobile devices. So remember, a lot of people are going to read your email on a phone. And so if it's not formatted properly, you're going to be in trouble.
Make sure everything that you send out on a desktop or looks good on a desktop, that it also looks good on your cell phone or tablet. One thing I will mention when it comes to email, there's a huge rise in desire for people to do prospecting via email because it's a cheap option. And again, more and more people are getting emails all the time, and the rules on emails are getting lax. Email, I would not invest much money whatsoever in prospecting via email because it's so easy and we have been trained to ignore email advertisement. And thanks to the advances of Gmail and Hotmail and what these email servers are doing, they find spam very quickly and get rid of it. So
yeah, also, does your Gmail box do this where it has like main and then promotions? So yeah, you're gonna go right into the promotions file or something else. You're not gonna hit their main email.
When it becomes from a mass like that. So what I would recommend doing is using your email to keep in touch with current clients only.
Yes.
Because we do recommend, we don't talk about this much today, but we do recommend in order to have a good retention process, that you contact your clients 7 times a year minimum to have a good retention method. And email is a great way to keep in contact with your current book of business. Prospecting, it will get ignored. It's not a lot of money, but that's because there's not a lot of return to it. So keeping it in touch with your current book of business, that is what I would use email for.
Yeah, and when you're writing an email, don't forget that less is more. Most people don't. The more stuff you give someone to do, read an email, click this, do that, the less they will. Because if it feels like work, they're going to push it aside. So a short and clear call to action, like, do you still need help with your Medicare coverage? If you're emailing old leads, that's all I would put in an email. That's it. Don't put how great you are and how the season's been, and look, it's cold outside or it's warm outside, or nobody cares. Why are you emailing me? Oh, you're emailing me for that reason. Now I have a clear call to action: either delete or respond with it. Yeah, I have questions.
I think the best advice I ever got via formulating an email was actually from you, Mike, and it was the best email are contain or get people to read the email before they realize they're reading the email.
Yeah.
They're just reading through it, and the way you do that is that quick 7 to 8 word email. Do you still need help with your Medicare coverage? They're reading it before they even recognize that they're reading the email.
Yeah, and that's what I want. It's just kind of like voicemail messages, which we don't talk about here, but if you leave me a 3-minute voicemail, I'm like, nope. That's way too long of a voicemail. It's, hey, this is Mike. I'm calling real quick. Any questions, call me. Bye. Because don't forget, I mean, I love it when, if you're calling a client and they, you're calling their cell phone, they have your phone number. It's literally right there on my screen. So you can skip a lot of the steps. So make that voicemail and/or email as short as possible, and you'll get more response.
Absolutely. I'm here for it.
Yes.
So we talked about this a little bit more, but the best time we recommend it, and one of the best ways to streamline a lot of your processes, are through a newsletter. The least you can do for a good retention practice for both networking opportunities, current clients, and keeping in touch with prospects, your newsletter is like the #1 easiest thing to do to kind of help you stand out in the crowd.
Yes, you should have one. Everyone has a newsletter. And it's one of those where if you don't have it, you'll just be forgot about. They're not going to open up their email with 60, promotions, as Gmail calls it, and be like, oh, I wonder why my insurance agent hasn't sent me a newsletter. No, you want to be in that mix. So your name is seen, even if they don't open it, because only 20% of your book of business will open it on an average send. You want to make sure they at least see your name on a consistent basis. So even if they don't open it, at least they saw you there. Because if you're not there, you're just going to be straight up forgot about.
Now, your newsletter actually follows the exact same rules as your social media. No politics, no religion, and very little to no selling. Having information that's valuable to your demographic without pushing products. So,
our Lord and Savior, CMS.
Yes. So just keeping that in mind as well. If you are interested in utilizing a good newsletter, Senior Marketing Specialist does have one. They have 5 newsletters a year that you have access to, customized with your name, logo, headshot, your contact information, that you can send out to your clients. Now they're seasonal, so there's a spring, winter, fall, and summer one. Then there's a special AEP edition newsletter as well. So we make 5 newsletters a year for you. We recommend 7 contacts a year. Newsletters can be 4 to 5 of those contacts. They're simple, it's easy. Do it.
Yeah. Now Susan asked, she uses the SMS newsletter but hasn't emailed it yet. Would you suggest sending in the body of the email or as an attachment? I would say, because if you're sending out bulk email, and this includes prospecting or to your book of business, you have to have an opt-out. And that's why we recommend MailChimp, because it's free for a limited account, meaning you only have up to 2,000 email addresses, which I think we're safe there. But you have to have the opt-out feature. So I would send the body of the email saying, hey, download our latest newsletter here. and then have a link to where you host it, like on Dropbox or in OneDrive through Windows. Because if you send it as an attachment, it does raise the flag for spam a lot quicker, because a lot of spam is sent via attachments. You don't want all these servers saying, ooh, this must be spam. It's being sent out to a lot of people and there's an attachment. So make it a link inside of the newsletter. Or you could rebuild it off the materials that were given you, which I'm a big fan of, because I want to get the newsletter, see what's all there, and not have to go anywhere else if I don't want to. Yeah. So it's all up to you, but you should definitely have at least a quarterly newsletter. And the fact that it's free, MailChimp's super easy to use. You've got tons of content through Senior Marketing Specialist. You're just making up excuses at this point, in my opinion.
If it were me, I would probably do both. I would probably email my newsletter, and then actually, if I had the time and the staff, I would also mail it out, because the more consistent you can get, they're seeing the same message twice, just solidifies that even more. They see my name, they see my logo, they see. So I would do both. I would mail them my newsletter. I would also email them the exact same copy of the newsletter. Ryan asked a great question, because I know Ryan uses Senior Marketing Specialist newsletter. He said, when is the summer one available? Right now. I'm trying to show you. Senior Marketing Specialist just posted on social media. It's available right now.
What?
Go get it, my friends. They talk about really cool things. There's a grilled chicken taco salad recipe on here.
What?
How to relax and boost your health. When to start receiving Social Security.
Ice cream.
Yes.
That's how I do it.
So you can go ahead and request that now. If you want to request that, go to smsteam.net. Click on the services tab. AMP is there. You can download, you can customize it yourself, so you don't have to wait for our team. You can fill in the information yourself. Or if you'd rather, just go ahead and call our offices and say, I want the newsletter, and they'll get you set up with it as well.
Yeah, 100% should have a newsletter. No ifs, ands, or buts. No, I don't have time, because it's super simple.
Girl,
and
it's right here.
Yes, like anything else, when you first start doing something, it's going to be a little cumbersome. But once you get your newsletter template done, it's just a matter of copying, pasting information, or changing the content. You've got the basic architecture done. So take this weekend, go into MailChimp, make an account. It's free. Make a template, and they have pre-made templates that will guide you through the process. And then once that template's done, it's just a matter of once a quarter going in there, changing some of the context, and sending it right back out again.
Brian was timing you. You made it 36 minutes before you hit your first 100%.
Aww.
That's improvement.
They call them crutch words.
Yes.
So, and my crutch word apparently is 100%.
100%.
100% of the time, it works 80% of the time.
Yes.
In that instance, it's about 72%.
Yeah. So again,
thanks, Brian, for timing.
Something that we didn't include in today's presentation because we are running out of time, but what we always recommend, and it's something because we talk about this every single training we do, we talk about, and that is CRMs.
Oh, I was going to say diabetic recipes for Seminoles.
Yes. So moving on from newsletters, we don't have a ton of time to talk about it now, but just keeping in mind CRM.
Yes.
We talk about it until we're blue in the face. Step one, if you don't have a CRM, get a CRM. Step two, if all your CRM is doing is storing client information, then you don't have a good CRM. Your CRM should be able to pull information, pull reports, do proactive activities for you as well. So again, a good CRM will replace or hold off you having to hire administrative staff. It really does take a lot of the busy work out of your day to day. The reason why I'm talking about a CRM now is because utilizing a CRM that is secure and cloud-based will absolutely help you with your systems and processes to bring you into the 21st century.
Especially in AEP.
Yes, I would add that and telephones. Utilizing a telephone, not a landline, and having a telephone that doesn't have to be plugged into your office. Even if you give people like your cell phone number, great, fine, wonderful. But if you have an office with administrative staff and multiple people are answering that phone line, use a cloud-based phone system as well. Trust me, you'll thank it later. If you want more details on that, I'm more than happy to talk more about that, more about CRMs and phone systems, but we just didn't hit on it a ton today, so I wanted to let you know that we have more information on that if anybody's curious.
If you don't think a CRM is important, all I'm going to say is everyone I've talked to that actually does anything with purchasing books of business, like you want to retire and sell your book of business, if you don't have it in a CRM, if you have a box of paper saying this is my book of business, no one's going to buy it.
Yeah.
You have a worthless book of business, because I'm not going to buy a big pile of papers and have to go through it and figure out who's a client, who's not, are they still active, what's the commission on this person is, you basically have a garage sale.
And what's even worse is not only is your business at that point very low value or no value, but if you try to contact the carriers and say, can I have a list of the clients that I have with you and how long I've had them with you? I cannot think of a single carrier that will give that to you.
Yeah, why do you want us to do your job?
Their biggest thing is, well, they're my book of business, they're my clients, why won't they give me the information? It's simply because they don't have to. Businesses are terrified that you are asking for a list of clients because you are getting ready to roll that book of business to another carrier. So carriers are very apprehensive, and I've not seen it done yet to where a carrier is willing to give you a list of clients that you have placed with them.
You might be the agent of record, but we're the policy holder technically, along with the client. You just wrote it. So in the eyes of the carrier, you have no clout whatsoever. Because what are you gonna do, cancel the policy? You can't. They can, and they can manage the policy. You can't.
Yeah.
So if you're not tracking your book of business in an effective manner, it's on you. It's on the carrier. It's on the client. It's all on you. And I know that's a huge hill to cross, but once you get on the other side, it's beautiful.
It's worth it.
Been there, done it. I feel it.
Worth the time investment if you don't have a CRM. So again, that's what we have to talk about today. If you do want more information on CRMs or cloud-based telephonic systems, stay to the end. I want to be conscious of everybody's time here today.
Yes.
Stay to the end. We'll have more discussion on that. But this is what you need to do after the last 3 days of talking about having a digital footprint in this arena.
Yeah. So look at your past couple transactions. Are you lining yourself for virtual sales? Because when AEP hits and you have larger books of business, you're going to have to start considering that as a method.
And it's crazy. Again, I have the statistics if anybody cares to hear about it, but the amount, the COVID-19, the lasting effects of COVID-19 to e-commerce, to people conducting business online, we're seeing over 20% increases of people buying things online. So if you don't have the capability for virtual appointments, you're really going to struggle going forward. This is something that was kickstarted by COVID-19, but it's not going away. People now know it's an option to not have to be face-to-face with your agents in order to facilitate the sale.
Yep. Using email to your advantage. If you're not emailing your clients on a regular basis with the example of newsletter or just using the means of communication, guess what? Someone else will.
Yeah.
So make sure you're utilizing email, newsletter, a CRM, and all the e-apps, because the easier it is to do business with you, the more they will.
Yeah. And the great news is that senior marketing specialists will help you with literally every single aspect of this as well. So just keep that in mind. You're not in this alone. We're not going to give you a to-do list of all these things you need to do to make sure you're compliant, make sure you're virtual, make sure you're marketing, make sure you're building your brand. We've done all the hard work for you. You just need to make sure you're getting paired up with the right resources offered by senior marketing specialists.
Yes. So make sure you're